Anin Bojo. My name's Sherry Lawson, and I'm host of Indigenous Voices, We're Still Here. Today, my special guest is Beverly Cheshire, who is a mental health worker for the Chippewas of Rama First Nation. Welcome, Beverly.
Hi.
Can you please introduce yourself in whatever way you think is proper?
Okay. So, Anin Bojo, Wapano Kwe, Dijnakas, Ramadonjiba, Ajijik Dodem, Anishinaabe Kwe, and Dow. My name is Beverly Cheshire, and my spirit name is Eastern Door Woman, and I'm happy to be here speaking with you today.
Good, thank you. Now, Eastern Door Woman, that must probably mean that's where everything starts in the East, right? You must be meant to be someone who starts things, am I right?
Yes.
Okay, so, doesn't mean you'll finish them, but you're starting them.
Right. I'm the first light of the day. So it's always a beginning each day.
Okay, cool. All right, tell us about your background, some of your education, places you've worked, what you've done.
So I have, when I first came back home into the community, I was a PSW. So I worked with the elderly clients in the ECU and in our community. And I kind of lost my transportation at the time and things were going on. So then I was working as a waitress in our little cafe. And somebody approached me and said, why don't you try a social work program? And I said, I don't know about social work and going back to college, because I didn't think, at the time I didn't have the, I guess, the strength to go back to college, and I didn't think I could do it, but something pushed me there to Georgian College, and I went into that social work program, and I wasn't able to go through it the normal way, so I had to go through a program, and it got me in the front door. And then I was actually graduating with honors, and they accepted me into the addiction and mental health program. So from there, Rama had hired me halfway through my program to work alongside the late Barry Stiles. And he was kind of mentoring me into this beautiful Indigenous addiction worker at the time. So coming from a background where I didn't really have my culture, as part of my foundation, I grew up away from my community. So I kind of struggled a little bit with my culture, my cultural values coming into the community. But as I was going along, I started to learn a lot about myself and my own identity. And then it brought me to, as I was working in the mainstream doing my education, I actually drifted into FNTI, which is First Nations Technical Institute. And that brought me into getting my bachelor's of social work degree. And halfway through that program, they asked me to be a teacher. So I went into the program. So I was a student as well as teaching the program. So that was kind of really funny to do, but I had the respect on each side. So it was good. It was a good transformation. Then from my bachelor's into my master's, I got called into Sir Sanford Fleming to teach with them as well. And then I came to finish my master's with Laurier, the Indigenous program. And as I was doing that, I came back home to work. So I've worked in a few of our communities. So I worked with Beausoleil, which is Christian Island, for 4 years as their mental health worker, going back and forth from my community to theirs. And they welcomed me with open arms. They were amazing to work with. And then I was with Curve Lake for just probably almost a year. And then Rama, of course, was calling me home. So I came back to Rama. So now I'm the mental health worker, and I also work with addictions now.
All right, thank you. And that's a story that we hear from other people as well, too. Didn't know where they were going, where they should end up, found along the way where they belonged. And now this is where you should be. Can you, the first week of May in Canada is Canadian Mental Health Week. And so that's when you see lots of things on TV and elsewhere talking about if you have a problem, ask for some help. Does that week in particular have any special significance for you or your work?
It always has a big significance because you want to make sure that you bring awareness out to the community and trying to break that stigma around mental health. And so we partner with the outside agencies and try and bring more self-awareness through a holistic approach as well. I know they have a lot of good resources, but sometimes it doesn't capture the interest of our community members, the Indigenous community. So what I try to do is bring that sense of community through working with the families, like creating self-care plans for the family, and again, bringing out that we have a distress line, and that wherever they can go if they need to reach out.
Okay, I want to pick up on what you said there about some of the other agencies, maybe what I heard, but I'm paraphrasing, might not have the same perspective on mental health as First Nations people do. Am I right?
Yeah.
So tell us a little more about that.
So trying to explain it in a good way. So in kindness, our approach is more where we do the mental, physical, and more spiritual way of through our wellness. So a lot of the other agencies don't always include spirit. So that's what I'm trying to, I guess, trying to get out. So it's kind of combining Western and cultural practice together.
Okay, and when a lot of people hear the word spirit, it goes right to spiritual, and so they think right away of organized religion and a church. Am I right? And that's not what you're talking about.
Right. So it's more on a cultural, holistic approach. So when we include spirit, it's actually any type of spiritual beliefs and values you have that you can connect to, if that makes a little sense.
It makes sense to me, but then I grew up here, many decades ago. Okay, tell us what would be a typical day or week in your job, Bev.
A typical day of mine. So just before trying to talk to you, I had 3 or 4 different crisis calls this morning. And so somebody is always trying to reach out, and they know they can reach out to me, and it's okay, even after hours if they have to reach out. I know we're supposed to direct them to other resources, but it is my community, so I try and be available for them. And there's always referrals, but a typical day would be, I run 3 groups through the week. So, I'm a part of 3 groups. The Red Road program, I'm their support for the participants that have went through the program already. And then there is a Red Rope group that we partner with Mamaway. And so I refer clients to that program, and then I'm their support when they're finished. So I have different clients in and out weekly, and then I run a women's group at night on Thursday evenings. And that's working, I guess, through trauma, through art therapy.
Mm-hmm. All right. Tell us a little more about Mamaway, and what does that mean, and what does the Red Road program do as well?
So the Red Road program, so Mamaway is the Indigenous, I'm nervous. The Indigenous agency that we partner up with their programs, because they do a lot of good programs, learning your identity through the culture. So I partner up with them a lot through their programming, and they are in Aurelia. So I just lost my train of thought.
The Good Road. Good Road.
The Red Road is a sobriety program. Yes. And it's to basically it's giving you a sense of your identity and working through trauma that you've had throughout your life. So if something triggers you or comes up and it's harboring in your life, the Red Road program will help you go through that. And it connects you to yourself. So you're working on your inner self with that program.
All right. So is it so many hours a week, or so many weeks, or
it is?
Is it a group?
It is. It's a online group. So we used to meet with each other in a group format, but we can't do that now. So everything is online, of course, and Zoom. So our new normal, but the participants all come together on Zoom, and they follow a curriculum that they go through weekly. So it's a 12-week program, and it also has a lot of, so when you're together, you can do a sweat at the end, but right now we can't. So they do other type of ceremonies throughout like you're learning the directions, like the east, the west, the north, and the south. So it's all connected.
All right. Since you've brought up something none of my other guests have talked about, give us a Reader's Digest version of a sweat.
Okay, that's a good one. A sweat is something that we want to utilize for mental health, part of our program. So what happens is the participants will come in, and they will sit together. Basically, it's supposed to be like our mother earth. So you're going inside, and you have the medicines all around you, which is cedar and tobacco and sage and our cedar water. So we have what it is a conductor, and he will basically run the sweat. So you go in, you're basically talking to the creator and nobody else, but you're talking to the creator. Even though you have other people with you, you're still having that and building that relationship with yourself and the creator. So it's a safe place for you to go, and you're sweating in there. So that's kind of why it's called a sweat, but it's purifying yourself so that you can come out and not carry the things that you had when you went in to that special place.
All right. And I know that when you come out of the sweat, there's food, right?
There is. You have a feast because it's a lot of work to work on yourself. So when you're finished, you come out and you have berries, and it's like you're renewed. So you're putting new nutrients into your body and celebrating that you're not carrying that trauma and it's left behind.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Now, I've had other guests talk very peripherally about some of the trauma and problems and battles they've had in various levels over their lifetime. Tell us about some of the issues in the lives of Indigenous people that may lead them to seek out some help.
Mm-hmm. So a lot of the people that I work with, like our community members, I guess I work with a lot of residential school survivors and 60 scoop survivors that have come back home, and they're trying to find that sense of belonging and to work through the trauma that they've endured throughout their lives. It's been a little easier for them to reach out at this point in time, but a lot of the time throughout their life, they haven't reached out at all. So they are impacted and they carry that for a long time. So we've been working with a lot of intergenerational trauma in our community.
Okay, and tell us what that intergenerational trauma really means. A lot of people have never heard that before.
So intergenerational trauma is basically it's trauma that has gone on for generations back throughout our lifetime. And so I'll give you an example. I'll put myself out there. So my dad is part of the 60s scoop, and I would be carrying those traumas that my dad endured through the 60s scoop. So intergenerational, it was passed down to me and my sisters and my brother. So when my dad will work on the issues that he's had to face, it kind of comes forward to me as he's working on things, as I'm working on things. Those things will, I guess, benefit my children, and so on and so on. So we always say that we want to work on 7 generations forward and 7 generations back. Even though our ancestors have passed on, we can still work on what has happened in our past. So that's where the intergenerational trauma comes from.
Okay, so you're talking about 60 scoop and residential schools when our kids were taken for many, many decades and suffered not enough food to eat, abuse, neglect, lack of love, no language, no culture for maybe until they turned into a teenager and then didn't know where they belonged. Is that it in a nutshell?
Yes.
And so we're still, as a community, as a people, are still dealing with those things today, even though they're long closed down, they're still in us, right?
Yes, and we're going to be healing for a long time.
Okay. I know that there's families in the community that their entire family, the children, the parents, the grandparents, none of them speak the language because all those generations went to residential school. And so they have a problem with wherever they're working, wherever they are, people walk up to them and say, how do you translate this word for me? Or what can you tell me about the sweat lodge? Or what day is the powwow? And they don't know what people are talking about. Can you talk about those kinds of things that disconnect?
Yeah, so I guess basically that's what I'm trying to think of how I would say it. So there is disconnect from that because we feel like our community is divided in that way. Because, there's Christianity, there's, then they believe in the creator. There's so many different ways that our community comes together. And the loss of culture is a great impact on our community. So that is why us as workers today are trying to bring in that sense of belonging. The language is a barrier because you're right. The grandchildren want to come up to the grandparents and they want to speak the language because they're learning the language. And the grandparents sometimes they feel shame because they can't speak the language. So I see them coming out a lot to reach out for those services. They want to learn, they want to engage. So,
all right. So that's another level of loss there too. And I suppose grief must be tied to that as well.
Yes, there's a lot of grief and loss that I have to deal with in the community, because it's not just, you're losing your loved ones. It's that loss of culture. It's that loss of feeling like you belong to the community.
I was told by one of our elders one time that if a German person lives in Canada and he wants to learn the German dances and the language and the cooking, he can hop on a plane, go back to Germany, or Italian, the same thing. And he said, we don't have an old country. This is our old country. If we lose it here, we've lost it forever.
Right. And we're trying to bring those things back into the community and learn who we are. And that
and go ahead. That
identity. That's the piece that everybody's trying to grasp is who they are and what's their purpose. Those are the things I see in the community almost every day.
All right. And you talked about different kinds of religions, organized religions, from straight Christianity to things further along than that. And many of my visitors to the show have talked about how we're a very non-judgmental people. We would never say that's bad, that's not good, don't follow that. Can you talk about those kinds of things and some of the choices that are available to people as part of their work?
So when we're doing programming or bringing awareness out into the community, we always have to have that in mind, that everybody is not, practicing the same thing. Like, we're not all cultural. We're not all, we're not all traditional. So we have to have an open mind when we bring people in, even when they come in searching for, a worker or mental health services. I can't even remember what I was going to say. I'm so sorry.
No, that's okay. You're doing fine. Now, tell us about how Chippewas of Rama is not the only First Nations community dealing with this type of thing. This is the same story from sea to sea to sea. Am I correct?
Correct. Yes. Because I've been in 3 different communities, I'm basically, doing the same type of work, and it's trying to engage our youth, trying to break the stigma of mental health, because a lot of, I would say old school, that's looking at my age, a lot of
looking at
mental health was always kind of like a frowned upon word. So when we talk about mental health, as in old school, there was a lot of shame associated with that word. So I find that just a little bit, it's starting to shift, and with more awareness out that, it's okay to have mental health. I mean, we all have mental health. It's how we deal with our mental health. And so I can see a little bit of the shift happening with the more awareness out
Okay, that's good. I had an elder tell me one time that there actually isn't a word in our language for mental health. When I asked her for a translation for that, she kind of laughed. She said, the closest you get is living your life in balance in a good way. Can you talk about those types of things?
So I heard Mano Bamadzuen, the good life.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's basically creating balance within your life, right? So it's all about wellness. And that's why we try and work with, the mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical part of our being. So I guess like the medical model, they want our wellness, but with us as the Indigenous mental health workers or the community, we want to work as in a holistic approach to our wellness. So we don't want to, a lot of people don't want to, take pills, and so they want to go to our medicines and whatever they can do to make themselves well through mind, body, and spirit.
Right. And we also have what mainstream would call alternative healers visit our community, correct?
Yes.
And we're very lucky to have those people as well, too. They're very sought after. All right, Bev, I want you to look ahead to the future about your job, your department, the other people you work with. What do you see in the future? Go 5 years, 10 years ahead. What's going to be happening in the area of mental health with Indigenous people?
I see in the next 5 years that we're going to have a lot of land-based programming, and we're creating a great mental health team together. And we're going to have beautiful programs that work around through identity, self-belonging, and sense of belonging, and just having that impact on the community as coming together, working together to create wellness within our families, our communities, and our workers.
Right. And I think the expression probably is you heal yourself, you heal your family, you heal your clan, you heal your community, you heal your people. And then what a future we would have. Bev, I'd like to thank you so much for joining us today. I think you've brought up a lot of things that people who will be watching didn't know about. And it's very important that you're doing this work. Your team is doing this work on behalf of myself and my family. Chimigwech for what you do.
Miigwech.